The galaxy was wide, filled with countless stars and endless dark space. Among these stars were thousands of alien civilizations, each with their own power, their own laws, and their own borders. But there was one border that no one dared to cross, a line that all races knew but none explained. It was called human space. The name alone carried weight. Merchants whispered it like a curse, soldiers used it as a warning, and rulers kept it off their maps. Stories said that anyone who crossed into human space never returned. Some claimed whole fleets had vanished, swallowed by the darkness. Others said strange ships appeared from nowhere, silent and merciless. And yet no one had proof, only rumors, only fear. Generations passed, and the legend only grew darker. For young aliens in the academy, it became a dare, a dangerous joke. For leaders of empires, it was a reminder of a threat unseen. And for smugglers, it was a death sentence if their path strayed too far. The forbidden border had no walls, no stations, no warning signs. It was simply a vast emptiness marked by old beacons. Dead satellites placed long ago by those who first discovered the humans. The beacons blinked weakly, almost forgotten. But everyone understood their meaning. Do not go further. In the far reaches of the Vega sector, a single beacon pulsed its dim light. Its metal body was rusted, its signals almost broken. Yet still it shone, repeating the same silent message for centuries. It was the edge of human space. No ship had crossed in living memory. No captain had dared to take the risk. Until tonight, beyond the beacon, the void stretched endless and black. Stars seemed to vanish there, as if light itself was afraid. Every navigator who passed near felt the same pressure in their chest. A deep instinct told them to turn back, to keep away. But instincts can be ignored, and fear can be mocked. Among the young races, whispers began to rise again. What if the stories were lies, they asked. What if humans were gone, extinct or weak? Maybe human space was just empty space after all. These whispers reached the wrong ears. The ears of explorers too proud, too curious, and too foolish. In the taverns of the Orion outpost, laughter filled the air. Alien voices argued over drinks. A group of young pilots spoke of glory and challenge. One of them, bold and reckless, said, "I will cross the border and I will come back. And when I do, the galaxy will see that humans are only a myth." The others cheered, their pride stronger than their caution. They had no idea what waited for them. Back near the beacon, silence reigned. The stars twinkled softly. The void looked calm. But in that silence, something stirred. Something unseen, something patient. For centuries, humans had watched their borders carefully, their fleets hidden in shadows, their weapons ready. They did not speak, they did not announce, they only waited. Every alien knew the border, but none understood it. Why would humans hide instead of ruling openly? Why would they choose silence instead of war? These questions never found answers, because those who crossed never returned to tell. The galaxy had grown used to the mystery. They feared humans like a ghost in the night. A power unseen but always near. Tonight that fear would return. The young explorers prepared their ship. Engines roared, shields hummed, and laughter filled their cabin. The captain, with shining eyes, said proudly, "We will prove the legends. False, we will see the truth with our own eyes." They thought they were brave, they thought they were clever. But bravery without wisdom is only another name for doom. The beacon flashed once more. Its fading light touched the hull of their ship as they passed. The system recorded their entry. One more ship, one more mistake. Inside the void, the stars grew colder. The silence grew heavier, even their laughter began to fade. Something felt wrong, though none spoke it aloud. In the command room of a human warship, far in the black, a signal appeared. The beacon's message had changed. It whispered of intruders. The humans stirred, their long watch finally broken. One officer turned to his commander and said calmly, "They crossed the border." The commander's eyes were cold as steel. "Then they will learn why no one dares." The galaxy believed human space was silent, but silence can be dangerous. Silence can hide predators. And in that silence the humans moved, quiet, unseen, unstoppable. The forbidden border was not just a line, it was a trap. And tonight, it had been sprung. The alien ship floated just beyond the beacon, its engines humming softly. Inside, 5 young explorers laughed at their own boldness. They were from a species called the Vayari, tall, thin beings with silver eyes and restless hearts. The Vayari were known across the stars for their daring spirit, always seeking new challenges, but even among them, crossing into human space was madness. The captain, a proud Vayari named Serac, sat in the command chair. His eyes glowed with excitement, not fear. He had heard the warnings all his life, whispered by elders, spoken in training halls, repeated by officials. Do not cross the border, they said. Do not go where humans rule. But Serac wanted to be remembered. He wanted his name written in the archives of the galaxy, and nothing made a greater story than breaking the greatest rule. His crew followed because they too were young, because they too wanted glory, because they did not believe in ghosts. For them, humans were not monsters, not hunters, not legends. They were simply old stories told by tired races, and old stories could not hurt them. Look, said Dela, the ship's navigator, her silver fingers dancing across glowing screens. The scanners show nothing. No ships, no stations, nothing but empty space. Her voice carried relief, but also mockery. Is this the mighty human space? A void with no teeth? The others laughed, their fear shrinking with every joke, yet deep inside a shadow lingered. The silence outside was too deep. The stars ahead seemed strangely dim. Every explorer felt it, but none admitted it, because pride was stronger than fear, and pride makes even the wise blind. Serac leaned forward and tapped the console. Mark this, Dela, he ordered. Record the coordinates, the time, the moment of entry. His smile widened. This will be our proof. We will return home and laugh at their old fears, and they will call us heroes. The crew cheered, their voices echoing in the small cabin. But proof is not always the same as survival. As their ship glided deeper, the sensors flickered strangely. Lines of static crawled across the screens. The power levels dropped for a second, then returned. Dela frowned, tapping the controls again. Strange interference, she muttered. No source detected. The others ignored her, only she noticed the pattern. It was not random, it was rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. The youngest of the crew, a quiet Vayari named Arian, sat near the viewport. He pressed his long fingers against the glass and stared into the blackness. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. Something is watching us. The others laughed again, but uneasily. They called him fearful, weak, too young. But none looked out the viewport for too long, because in the corner of their eyes, shadows seemed to move. The silence grew heavier. Every sound inside the ship felt too loud, too sharp. Even the hum of the engines felt out of place. It was as if the void outside wanted silence, demanded silence, and any noise was an insult. Still, Serac pushed forward. Still, he smiled. Still, he told himself he was winning. Hours passed, or maybe only minutes. Time seemed to stretch in human space. The void was endless, swallowing every moment. The crew grew restless. Their laughter had faded into nervous chatter. Even Dela stopped making jokes. Her silver eyes flicked across the screens again and again. Every time she expected something to appear, every time she prayed it would not. Then it happened. A flicker on the radar, a shape moving fast, too fast. Dela froze. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Contact." The crew turned toward her, their faces pale. "What is it?" Serac demanded, but she could only shake her head. "It's big, but I cannot lock on." The viewport showed only blackness, stars, empty stars, nothing more. Yet the radar pulsed again. Something was there, something large, something circling them. Arian's voice trembled as he spoke. "I told you, we are being watched." The silence of the cabin was broken by a sudden sound. A voice, deep, cold, and human. It came through the comms without warning. It spoke in perfect Veari tongue. "You should not have come here." The words cut through the crew like a blade. No one moved. No one breathed. Even Serac's proud eyes widened. The humans knew their language. The humans had been waiting. The legends were not lies. Panic rose in the cabin. Dela's hands flew over the console, trying to trace the signal, but no source could be found. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It felt as if the void itself had spoken. Serac gritted his teeth. "We are explorers, not enemies," he said loudly. His voice shook, though he tried to hide it. "We mean no harm." The silence returned. For a moment, they thought the voice was gone. For a moment, hope returned. But then, the radar lit up again. Dozens of contacts appeared, surrounding their ship. They had not been alone for a single second. The alien ship trembled as the radar filled with moving signals. One moment the space outside had been silent and empty. The next, it was alive with hidden shadows. Shapes flickered across the screen, too fast to track. Dozens, maybe hundreds. They were surrounded. Serac gripped the arms of his command chair, his silver eyes wide with disbelief. "How can this be?" he shouted. "There was nothing on the scanners, nothing at all." Dela shook her head, her fingers rushing over the glowing keys. They were here the whole time," she whispered. "They were hidden." The crew stared at the radar. Strange icons flashed and moved like hunters circling prey. Each signal blinked for only a second, then vanished again. It was like chasing ghosts, but the ghosts were real. And they were closing in. Arian, the youngest, pressed against the viewport. Again, he squinted into the endless dark. At first he saw nothing, but then for a heartbeat the stars themselves seemed to shift. Huge shapes slid across the background of the universe. Silent, black, sharp, warships. But as soon as he blinked, they vanished back into the void, his breath caught in his throat. "They are all around us," he said, voice trembling. "They are watching." The others laughed nervously, not out of joy but out of fear, because they knew he was right. They could feel the weight of unseen eyes pressing on them. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered, the engines groaned. Every screen on the console glitched into static. Alarms wailed for a second, then cut off in silence. The crew froze. It felt as if an invisible hand had reached into their ship and squeezed. "Systems are being jammed," Dela gasped, her silver fingers flying over the panel. "I cannot stop it. I cannot fight it." The human voice returned, calm and cold. "You are intruders," it said. "You will not leave without consequence." Serac's pride flared. His voice shook, but he tried to sound strong. "We are explorers," he replied. "We are not here to harm. We are not your enemy." But the voice did not answer. Only silence followed, and that silence was worse than words. The crew exchanged fearful looks. Even Serac could not hide his doubt anymore. They had come seeking glory, but now they stood at the edge of death. Their pride had brought them here, and pride could not save them. Arian whispered again. "They are playing with us." The others turned to him startled. He pointed at the radar, at the blinking signals. "They could have destroyed us already," he said, "but they do not. They are watching, testing, waiting." His words chilled them, because deep down, they knew he was right then. Without warning, the comms filled with sound. Not words, but images. Strange visions appeared on their screens. Scenes of burning ships, alien fleets breaking apart, explosions swallowing planets. And at the center of it all, human warships, silent, sharp, merciless. It was not just a warning. It was a history. The history of those who had crossed before them. Dela's voice shook. These are records. They are showing us what happened to others." The crew watched in horror as alien ships they recognized, cruisers of the Gerak, battle fleets of the Orani, even smugglers' freighters, all were crushed, burned, erased. Each battle ended the same. Silence, not one survivor. Serac's hands trembled on the chair. His pride cracked under the weight of truth. The legends were real. Humans were not a myth, they were hunters, and human space was their trap. The ship shuddered violently. The lights dimmed until only the red glow of emergency power remained. Outside the viewport, shadows shifted again, one by one. The human warships revealed themselves. Massive shapes sliding out of the dark. No lights, no signals, no sound. They appeared like predators rising from the depths of the sea. The crew fell silent. No one moved. No one breathed. The human ships formed a circle, closing every path of escape. They were trapped, hopelessly trapped. The comms crackled again. The human voice returned. "You should not have come here," it repeated. "But now you are here. You will learn why no one crosses the border." The crew trembled. Their earlier laughter was gone. Their pride was gone. Only fear remained, and in that fear they began to understand. This was not just human space. This was a hunting ground, and they were the prey. The alien ship floated in the center of the circle. All around them, human. Warships drifted like shadows come alive. They made no sound, no signal, no light, yet their presence was crushing. The very explorers could feel it pressing against their very bones. The trap had closed. Sirach's proud eyes darted from screen to viewport. His mouth was dry, his hands trembled though he tried to hide it. For the first time, he understood the warnings of his elders. This was not a story, not a myth. This was death waiting in silence. Dela's voice cracked as she spoke. There are at least 30 ships, maybe more, but they were not there before they appeared out of nothing. Her words were true. The human ships had been invisible, hidden in the darkness, camouflaged in ways no alien race understood. It was not just technology. It was patience. It was hunting instinct. Arian sat frozen at the viewport, his young eyes wide with terror. Each ship that moved seemed impossibly large, sharp metal shapes gliding without a single sound, predators in their natural ground. He whispered the word no one wanted to hear. "Hunters," the comms flickered. The human voice returned, cold and merciless. "You entered forbidden space. You will not leave without punishment." The words cut through the cabin like knives. Sirach swallowed hard. He wanted to argue, to claim they meant no harm, but his voice failed him. The weight of human judgment was too heavy. Then, without warning, the ship shook violently. A blinding light flooded through the viewport. The crew screamed as their controls went dead. Engines offline, shields offline, weapons offline. In a single instant, everything was gone. The ship floated helpless in the trap. Dela shouted, her hands slamming against the console. "They disabled us. Every system in seconds. I cannot fight this. I cannot fix this." Her voice was broken by panic. On the screens, new images appeared, not battles this time, but rows of alien ships drifting powerless, captured, waiting, surrounded by human warships. The crew stared in silence. This was not just about destruction. This was control. This was power beyond imagination. Arian's whisper broke the silence. "They are showing us what comes next." The words sent a chill through everyone because deep down they knew it was true. They were not the first to fall into the trap, and they would not be the last. Outside, the human ships closed their circle tighter. One by one, their outlines grew sharper, not because they turned on lights, but because they wanted to be seen. They revealed themselves like hunters stepping from the shadows to show their prey the teeth of the cage. The largest ship drifted forward. It was a giant compared to the Vayari explorer vessel. Its hull was black, covered in scars of old battles. But it carried no banners, no symbols. Humans needed no such marks. Their silence was their signature. Their presence was their warning. The comms activated once more. The human voice was calm, but merciless. "You will speak. Why did you cross?" "The border." Sirach forced himself to stand, his legs weak beneath him. He looked into the screen as though facing the voice. His pride struggled against his fear. "We came as explorers," he said slowly. "We mean no harm. We only wanted to see the truth of human space." For a long moment, there was silence. The crew held their breath, then the voice spoke again. "Truth is dangerous. Curiosity brings death. You were warned." The words struck them harder than any weapon. They realized then that humans did not see them as equals. They saw them only as trespassers. Suddenly the ship shook again. This time not from attack, but from something far more terrifying. The human warship had locked onto them. A tractor beam of invisible energy gripped their hull. The explorer vessel was dragged helplessly forward. Dela cried out, "We are caught. We cannot move." Her hands flew across the controls, but nothing answered. They were insects trapped in the web of a spider. Through the viewport, the massive, human ship loomed closer. Its hull blocked the stars. Its size was endless, its silence deafening. Arian clutched his seat, his voice a whisper. "They are pulling us in." And indeed they were. The explorer ship slid toward a dark opening. In the warship's side, a hangar, a mouth of steel waiting to swallow them whole. Fear consumed the cabin. No one spoke. No one dared. Even Sarak's proud fire was gone. All that remained was the crushing truth. They had walked into the trap willingly, and now there was no escape. The hangar swallowed their ship. Lights flashed across the vast metal walls. Rows of silent human machines lined the space. Every gun was aimed at them. Every shadow seemed alive. Their tiny vessel landed with a hard thud, the sound of finality. The comms whispered one last time, "You crossed the line. Now you will understand." And then silence returned. But it was no longer the silence of space. It was the silence of prey trapped in the hands of the hunter. The Vayari explorer ship sat trapped inside the hangar. Its engines were dead, its weapons useless. Around it, rows of human machines stood silent. Tall walkers of steel, cannons locked in place, drones hovering like silent birds. It was a cage, built not of bars but of power. The crew sat frozen in their seats. Fear pressed down on them heavier than gravity. They had come searching for myths, but now they were prisoners of a truth far worse. Humans were real, and humans were watching. The comms crackled, but this time no cold voice spoke. Instead, images appeared across every screen. Not static, not warnings, but visions from history, scenes of wars long forgotten by aliens but never erased by humans. The first image showed an alien fleet, vast and proud, hundreds of ships, glowing with power. The Vayari recognized the design. It was the fleet of the Gerak Dominion, one of the most feared empires of the past. The fleet advanced boldly into human space. The vision shifted. Moments later, those ships were burning. Explosions tore them apart. Fire swallowed them whole. Against the humans, their numbers meant nothing. The Gerak fleet was erased in hours. The second image appeared, this time, the Orani swarm. Living ships, grown not built, millions of them. Endless like a tide of locusts, the swarm crossed into human borders. They believed their numbers made them unstoppable, but the humans unleashed fire like the galaxy had never seen. Planets burned. Stars were turned into weapons. The swarm screamed, then fell silent. Not one living ship survived. The crew gasped, their silver eyes wide with horror. Dela covered her mouth with trembling hands. "These are not stories," she whispered. "These are real battles, real deaths." Arian whispered even softer. "This is why no one returns." The visions continued, one empire after another, smugglers, warlords, kings, entire nations. Each had tried to test the humans, each had vanished. The screens showed piles of wreckage drifting in space, shattered fleets, burning colonies, silence swallowing every echo. At last, the vision shifted to something different. Not war, but peace. Images of humans building, colonies rising on dead worlds, massive cities of steel and glass glowing in the void, armies training in silence, fleets hiding in shadows. The humans did not conquer for glory. They did not boast. They only prepared for the next fool who would cross their border. The comms finally spoke. The voice was calm but filled with unshakable strength. "This is our history," it said. "This is our power. You believed we were myths. You believed we were gone. You were wrong." Sarak tried to stand, but his legs shook beneath him. He gripped the console for support, his voice cracked. You destroyed fleets, you crushed empires. Why do you stay hidden? Why not rule the galaxy openly? Why not take it all? For a moment, there was silence. Then the voice replied, "Because we do not need to. The galaxy rules itself. We only guard our space. We only hunt when provoked." The words struck deep into the crew. It was not ambition that made humans terrifying. It was restraint. Restraint backed by absolute power. Arian's young voice trembled. "You wait in the shadows. You let others tell stories of you, and those stories keep everyone away." The voice answered, "Fear is stronger than war, and silence is stronger than noise." The screens went dark, the images faded, but the truth remained carved in the hearts of the explorers. They had seen enough. More than enough. Humans were not just powerful, they were beyond comparison. They were patient hunters who had perfected the art of waiting. Suddenly, the ship's systems flickered back to life. Engines glowed, shields pulsed, weapons reactivated. The crew gasped, staring at the consoles. "They gave us control again," Dela whispered. "They want us to move." The hangar doors opened slowly. Beyond them stretched the cold, endless void, but the human ship still waited, dozens of them surrounding the exit, silent, unmoving. The crew realized what this meant. They were being tested. The voice returned one last time. "You have seen our power, now you will choose. Leave and never return, or stay and be destroyed." The crew looked at one another. Pride was gone, curiosity was gone. Only fear remained. Sarak's proud shoulders slumped as he whispered, "We cannot fight this. We cannot win." Even he, the most arrogant among them, had been broken. Slowly, trembling, he gave the order, "Turn us around, we are leaving." The engines hummed. The small ship drifted toward the open void, past the circle of human warships, every shadowed predator watching their every move, not attacking, only watching. That silence was worse than 1,000 guns as they crossed. The border again. The comms fell silent. The human ships vanished back into the black, like ghosts melting into the night. The Vayari explorers were free, but freedom came with chains of fear because now they knew. The stories had been true, the humans were real, and their power was absolute. The Vayari explorer ship drifted slowly, toward the edge of the hangar, its engines weak, its shields trembling. Behind them, the silent human warship still watched. Dozens of giants in the dark, each one sharp as a blade. None fired, none moved. They only waited. The crew held their breath as the void opened before them. Freedom was just beyond the circle of hunters, but freedom came with fear. Because the comms whispered again, "You will not return the same. You will carry what you have seen." The voice was cold, without anger or mercy. "You have one choice," it said. "Leave and never return, or stay and be destroyed." The words echoed through the cabin like a final judgment. Sarak stared at the screens. His hands shook as they gripped the console. He was a captain, proud and strong, but now he looked broken. The weight of command crushed him. Every decision meant death. If he left, he would live in shame. If he stayed, he would die with pride. Dela's silver eyes locked on him, her voice cracked. "Captain, we cannot fight them. You saw what they showed us. Whole fleets destroyed, empires burned, we are nothing to them." Her hands trembled on the controls. Her pride was gone. Her fear was real. Arian's voice was softer. "They are testing us," he whispered. "If we stay, they will crush us. If we run, they will let us go, but either way, they own us now." The young one understood something the others did not. The choice itself was a trap, because even if they lived, they would never escape the shadow of humans. Sarak's jaw tightened. He wanted to scream, to fight, to prove his worth, but he could not. Every image burned in his mind. The Zerak fleets destroyed, the Irani swarm burned, the silence after every scream. No victory, only annihilation. He knew if he stayed, his ship would be erased, and his crew would vanish into the endless dark. The humans waited. Their silence was louder than thunder. Every second stretched like an eternity. The explorers felt like insects under a magnifying glass. One spark, and they would burn. Finally, Serac spoke, his voice heavy, his pride shattered. "We will leave," he said. The words tasted like poison. He had never admitted defeat before, but now defeat was survival. It was the only path. The comms crackled once more. The human voice replied, "Then leave and never return." The words were simple, but they felt like chains, because the humans had given mercy, but mercy felt worse than death. The hangar doors opened wide. Stars spilled into the void. The Vayari ship drifted forward. Every alien eye on board watched the human circle. The warships did not move. They let the explorers pass. But their presence pressed like iron against every heart. As the small vessel crossed the invisible border, the beacons flashed once more. A dim light pulsing across the dark, the same warning that had stood for centuries. But now the explorers understood it. The beacon was not broken. The beacon was not weak. It was alive. It was a warning carved. In blood inside the cabin, silence reigned. No one spoke, no one dared. Even Serac could not find his pride. His shoulders slumped, his hands shaking. For the first time in his life, he knew what it meant to be powerless. Arian's whisper filled the silence. "We are alive, but we will never be free." The others turned to him. His young silver eyes were wet with tears. "They let us live, but they will haunt us forever. Every star will remind us, every shadow will whisper their name, humans." Dela shuddered, her hands gripped the console tightly. "They gave us mercy, but it was not kindness," she said. "It was power. They showed us what they could do, and then they let us go. So we would carry the fear." The crew nodded because they understood. The humans had not spared them out of weakness. They had spared them out of design. The ship sped away. Stars stretched into long white lines as the jump engines engaged. But no one celebrated. No one cheered. The cabin was silent. Only the sound of engines filled the air. And behind that sound, in their minds, the voice still echoed, "You will never return." Serac closed his eyes. He had dreamed of glory, of proving himself greater than the myths. But instead, he had found a truth that shattered him. Humans did not seek glory. They did not need it. They ruled through fear. Fear was their weapon, and now that weapon lived inside him. As the stars bent and twisted, the explorers left human space behind. But human space would never leave them. It would stay in their minds, a shadow at the edge of every thought, a weight. On every word, the terrifying choice had been made, and it would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The Vayari ship tore through space, leaving the border behind. Stars stretched into long white lines as the jump engines carried them home. But inside the cabin, silence reigned. No cheers, no laughter, no songs of victory. Only fear, cold and heavy, clinging to every breath. Serac sat in his chair like a broken statue, his proud shoulders bent, his silver eyes dull. He had dreamed of returning as a hero, but he knew now he would return as a warning. His crew felt the same. They had crossed into human space and survived, but survival was not freedom. It was a curse. Dela kept her hands on the console, her eyes flicked again and again across the screens. Even outside human space, she still searched for shadows, still expected warships to appear. But the stars were quiet. Only the hum of their engines filled the void. And yet, the silence still felt human. Arian sat near the viewport, his young face pale. He stared into the endless dark. His voice was small, almost lost in the hum. "They let us live, but they are still here." The others looked at him with confusion, but deep down they knew he was right. The humans had not followed, but their presence lingered like a shadow in the mind. The days passed in heavy silence. The crew ate in silence. They repaired the ship in silence. No one spoke of what they had seen. No one dared. Because every time they remembered the visions, the fleets destroyed, the empires burned. Their hearts froze. Their voices failed. They feared even speaking. Of humans might summon them back. When at last they returned to Vayari space, the docking stations hailed them with joy. Friends and families gathered to greet the explorers. They had expected glory. They had expected tales of triumph. But when the crew stepped out, their faces told a different story. Their eyes were wide, their skin pale, their voices broken. The crowd fell silent. Whispers began to spread. Something had happened, something beyond words. Officials demanded a report. Captains of other ships demanded proof. "Tell us what you saw," they cried. "Tell us the truth of human space." But Sirach's mouth would not open. His hands trembled. His pride was gone. At last, he whispered only 4 words. "We should never return." The others echoed. Him. Dela refused to speak of the visions. Arian refused to look anyone in the eyes. The crew stayed silent. Their silence was heavier than words, because silence was what the humans had given them, and silence was what they carried home. Rumors spread quickly across the Veari worlds. The explorers had crossed the forbidden border. They had seen something, but they would not speak of it. The people asked why. The leaders demanded answers. But none came. Only silence. And that silence became fear. Other species heard the whispers. Merchants at spaceports traded the rumor. Smugglers carried the tale into dark corners of the galaxy. Someone crossed into human space, they said, and they came back silent. The story spread like fire, and with it, the fear grew deeper. Soon the silence became more powerful than words. No one needed proof. No one needed images. The fear of humans lived stronger than any evidence, because if even proud explorers refused to speak, what terror had they seen? What horror had broken their will? In hidden halls of alien rulers, the warnings grew louder. "Do not test the humans," they said. "Do not cross their borders. Do not seek their silence, because silence hides hunters." Empires turned their maps darker. They stretched their borders far from human space, and the legend grew. For the Veari crew, life never returned to normal. Sirach never sought command again. He walked with heavy steps, carrying the weight of failure. Dela could no longer trust. The stars? Every night she looked for shadows that were not there. Arian never spoke of what he saw, but his eyes always searched the darkness, as if waiting for the hunters to return. Years later, when asked again, Sirach whispered the same words, "We should never return." And nothing more, because the truth was too heavy for words, too sharp, too final. The humans had not only spared their lives, they had carved fear into their souls, and so the legend continued. The galaxy believed what it always had, that human space was forbidden, that no one dared cross. And now, the reason was clear, not because humans destroyed, not because humans conquered, but because humans waited. Silent, patient, merciless, and in that silence lived the greatest fear. The explorers had lived, but their silence told the story better than screams. Every race heard it. Every ruler understood it. The humans were watching, always watching, and no one would ever dare cross again.